Hey, it's JC1424 once again with another album review, and today we're going to be talking about the 7th studio album, I believe, from 3 Days Grace, and their third to be led by Matt Walst, and that is titled Explosion. It was released on May 6th, 2022. I've been listening to this band probably ever since they started because they were featured in this game. It's a great game. And since then, over like the past 10 years, they've probably started to really brand themselves with a specific sound, and that was what led to Adam Gontier leaving. And, he's started up his own project called Saint Asonia since then, a couple albums out, and probably another one this year with a single that came out a week ago. And, 4 years ago, Outsider came out by 3 Days Grace, and I did a review of that. I gave it like a 70%, which that's basically like a D, when in reality, I felt it was more like a C. So yeah, how I rated shit back then was completely different. But I recall really enjoying a lot of content from that album. There was Villain I'm Not, Infrared, The Abyss, Right Left Wrong. And The Mountain was kind of a corny single, but it was still a big deal back then. Love Me or Leave Me was, I guess, like a 6th song I could say as a deep cut I really enjoyed. But yeah, it was half and half. I really enjoyed this. Some of that I just kind of skip or got bored with. But yeah, you get the point. But yeah, going into Explosions. Track 1 is So-Called Life. I don't think this is meant to be taken seriously, and yet it's the lead single and the first track on the album. It's medium tempo, perfect hook, edgy as hell on vocal delivery at times, and it's got these lyrics about self-medicating in some unhealthy way. The electronics and percussion aren't mind-blowing, but they're definitely there.
What a time to be alive. Such a waste of fucking time. Oh, give me something to take the edge off.
And then we go into track 2, which is I Am the Weapon. I thought you were machine. But I guess both weapon and machine. I mean, a weapon can be a machine. It's a stupid joke. But he says a bunch of stuff about evolving roles that are followed through generations. Like how you start as the youth, being raised a certain way, and then you become the ones raising the youth, expecting things of them. And it's kind of introspective what this song is about. Oddly, the pre-chorus is more catchy than the actual chorus, and the verses are, they're fine. What grabs me sound-wise is the melodic spiral of sorts in the bridge.
I am the weapon.
The third song on this album was one of the singles, and that is Neurotic, featuring Lucas Rossi. It was written by that guy and his band, but they were already trying to sound like 3 Days Grace. It's completely obvious. So, for that reason, it's written better than most stuff they put out in the past decade. Lucas doesn't sound that much different than Matt, in my opinion, but the riffing and mix is nice. And it's a song about being lost in your head and that taking over your well-being.
I need some kind of feeling. I'm feeling neurotic, but there's a little in all of us.
Track 4 is Lifetime, and it is absolutely my favorite song on the album, and one of their best ever made, in my opinion. I felt this one, and with the music video about the Mayfield, Kentucky tornado disaster, I can even relate a bit. This album doesn't make me feel anything in general, though, but what makes this one so amazing is how specific it is about losing someone. Not just losing, like, someone that raised you, or a grandparent, or someone that you worked with, but losing the one person, like a best friend, or someone like a significant other, that you thought you spend your entire life with. So losing them, you have no way of knowing how to cope with that. You thought they'd be there with you to cope with all these things, and it's just devastating. It's unimaginable. And so I get that. But they don't get overzealous with the electronics, while the music pulls you in with clear, resonating sound and just steady movement.
You were the one that I wasn't supposed to lose. I thought I'd have you for my lifetime. Have you for a lifetime.
The 5th song on this album is A Scar Is Born. The intro is just funny, in my opinion. It's so wacky how disingenuous the vibe is to the theme. Because at first it's all cool and badass, but not until the chorus does it start to actually sound like perseverance. And the whole point is to overcome trauma by inherently carrying it with you, in a way. And I do catch the appealing electronic decisions in the background, but again, it's just kind of there.
Do you remember the moment your heart ripped wide open? The moment when you started to grieve?
Track 6 is Souvenirs. I get the theme is basically a philosophical outlook on life. The guy is having an epiphany, I guess, but I'm not sure why half of the vocals sound like a drive-through box or a robot. It's oversaturated with distortion and modulation, man. At this point, not only am I getting bored, but also somewhat confused. I don't know what's going on, but I'm also not interested in what's going on. Now, sonically and electronically, it reaches a standard, at the very least.
Proof of how small we are. Remember getting high on the hood of my broke down car.
The 7th song on this album is No Tomorrow. It took almost 20 years, but we are finally on the last of the 3 days. The instrumental is okay, but good God, Matt is singing with his ass crack on this track. And even if he wasn't, the style they're going for is all strut your stuff, bruh. You know, and this album does have a concept, and this ties into that well, while being merely listenable.
I'm gonna ride or die for all of my life, and I'll make it through the night if it's not my time, yeah.
Track 8, Redemption, is quite enjoyable compared to everything I've heard in the past 10 minutes, so that's redeeming. It's kind of a rock ballad with an acoustic guitar, heavy chords, and them beating drums. It's simply composed better and has the proper reverb to draw me in. But something I can't put my finger on holds this back. Not even the vocals, you know, they're whatever, but it just feels like recycled material at this point.
I know there's nights when it felt like living hell. All those nights when I almost killed myself.
The 9th track on this album, Champion, does display some originality without shedding the 3 Days Grace brand sound. The drumming style is unique for them, and the guitar tone is on that iconic side, if you know what 3 Days Grace has sounded like over the years. The chorus comes through with this really sick harmony, but the verses are rather yappy.
Yap, yap, mouth. I couldn't tell what he was saying.
I've heard this idea expressed before. It's basically a battle song, but here the lyrics are somewhat iffy for me.
I was born to run, no waiting for the starting gun.
Chain of Abuse is track 10 and begins with a distorted bullying monologue for an intro. It's covered by reverb and chimes. I don't know. Overall, this song does serve a wholesome purpose, despite its cliche lyrical delivery. The second verse doesn't sound like 3 Days Grace at all. But that's just the song, you know? I guess it's got to sound like that. But like in most cases on this album, the instrumental does the bare minimum to carry the song.
Tomorrow is a different day. You think that everyone hates you, but I don't.
Track 11 features Apocalyptica with Someone to Talk To. Regardless of being lyrically redundant or basic, it's one of the best works on the album. I definitely recommend Apocalyptica. They know their way around sweet orchestration. And the minimal use of electronics is spot on for the first time in the entire running of this thing. I was very drawn in by the piano from the start. Only the self-pity to this song throws me off, I guess.
Maybe I'm too hard to love. I just want someone to talk to.
The 12th and final song on this album is Explosions. It's the title track, but it is a terrible effort to end the album on. It's rushed, formulaic, and cheap. There's such a beautiful wall of sound for the chorus, but then it just sort of happens again and again and again. Meanwhile, the bridge is repetitive and just goes nowhere for several seconds. That annoyed the crap out of me whenever I first heard the song. It's like it's so supposed to be the big ending, but no, you just do the bridge, repeat, 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 and then chorus again, boom, big chorus. No help that this song just further pushes this philosophical ideology to go have fun because the world's gonna blow up anyways. It's just gonna explode. There's nothing but a bunch of violence. We're all gonna die. This is such a weird way of thinking, and I think that way sometimes, but not everyone does. And I guess it could be taken religiously, but not politically. So it can be offensive, but for the most part, it's just divisive. But they're also not expanding on it. But that really just comes down to the fact that they've always sucked at writing lyrics. That's always been a problem with 3 Days Grace. It's just now it's brought to light by the fact that Adam's not here to carry it vocally. But my final score for the new album by 3 Days Grace, Explosions, released on May 6th, 2022, is a 73%, which is a D+. So it's almost a C. And, a C, it's decent. It's worth listening to a few times. This, I have listened to it a few times because I review music, But I don't ever want to go back to it. If you're a 3 Days Grace super fan, then yeah, you're going to listen to this all the freaking time until they finally put out another album. Or just go back to previous albums. I don't know. But I definitely preferred Outsider, which is strange because I gave that a 70%, but I didn't rate music the same way back then. I didn't have letter grades. So I probably meant at least a 75 or maybe 76, 77. I just remember enjoying half of that album. And everything else was just kind of eh. But this, almost the entire thing is eh. It's quite lifeless. The first few songs have this energy, and then it goes down the drain really quickly. Lifetime is the only song I'm going to ever think about whenever I think about this album. And then I'll be able to remember the names of the singles, but not have actually enjoyed them all that much. That song with Apocalyptic, Someone to Talk To. I don't like the writing there, but the effort they put in to make it such a great song, sound-wise, it's stellar. And, there's a few songs that I wouldn't come back to unless I listened to the album, but I don't want to. But, go ahead and leave your, dislikes and crap because I disagree with how you feel about the album and whatever, and say, my take on the song is incorrect, or I don't know. See you next time. That's that, and album review over.